Discover the miraculous journey of the Old Testament, revealing sacred transformations from creation. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, during a time when the heavens declared the glory of God, an ancient tale unfolds, a story steeped in divine creation and human choice. In the celestial expanse, God spoke, and with each command, the cosmos responded in wonder. "Let there be light." He declared, and immediately, light separated from darkness, illuminating the void. The heavens adorned themselves with stars, each one a testament to his craftsmanship. The earth flourished beneath his touch, teeming with life, vibrant and pure. In the heart of this vibrant world, God formed man from the dust of the ground, sculpted with care and intention. He breathed into him the breath of life, and Adam opened his eyes in the lush Garden of Eden, a paradise crafted for harmony and divine communion. The aroma of fragrant blossoms wafted through the air, as towering trees whispered secrets of creation. Adam walked among them, filled with awe as he conversed with his Creator, his heart overflowing with joy in the divine companionship. God saw that it was not good for Adam to be alone, so he fashioned Eve from Adam's side, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Together, they embraced their sacred roles within this perfect garden, enjoying unbroken fellowship with God. They knew no shame, reveling in their innocence, for every tree bore fruit, sweet and nourishing, and life flowed like a river through Eden. But in the midst of this perfection, the serpent, crafty and subtle, slithered into their paradise. With clever words and deceitful charm, he approached Eve, sowing seeds of doubt. "Did God truly say you shall not eat of the tree in the midst of the garden?" he hissed, a whisper laced with temptation. Eve hesitated, her gaze drawn to the fruit, glistening like forbidden jewels. The serpent continued, weaving lies cloaked in half-truths, igniting a desire within her, a yearning for wisdom and power. In that sacred space, Adam observed, torn between profound loyalty to God and the alluring promise of understanding. The weight of the moment pressed upon them, heavy as the very air around them. Would they trust the Creator's design or choose autonomy in disobedience? Captivated by the serpent's enticing words, Eve reached out, plucking the fruit from its branch. She took a bite and then offered it to Adam, who stood silently, grappling with the escalating tension threatening to unravel their existence. As the sweetness of disobedience filled their mouths, a transformation swept over them. The veil of innocence melted away, leaving them starkly aware of their nakedness. Fear gripped their hearts as they sought to cover themselves with fig leaves, desperately trying to hide from the Creator who had walked with them in the cool of the day. In the aftermath of their choice, God's voice pierced the silence. "Where are you?" Once a place of profound communion, the garden now echoed with their shame. They trembled, realizing that their disobedience had erected a chasm between them and their Creator. Yet even in the darkness of their heartache, a glimmer of hope emerged. God would not abandon them. He spoke of the seed of the woman who would one day crush the serpent's head, a promise of redemption woven through the fabric of a fractured world. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As twilight descended upon Eden, Adam and Eve faced the reality of their choices. The weight of their disobedience loomed large as the shadows of their failure threatened to define them. Yet God's promise whispered through the leaves, calling them to cling to hope in His unfathomable grace. The path ahead remained uncertain, leaving their hearts aching for restoration. Would they trust in the promise of the Creator, or would they be consumed by the weight of their sin? The unfolding mystery of God's redemptive plan awaited, shrouded in the promise of what was yet to come. As dawn broke over the world, the weight of sin settled upon Adam and Eve like a pall, heavy and inescapable. Their hearts, once filled with peace, now wrestled with guilt and sorrow. Hiding among the trees, they heard the gentle footsteps of the Lord in the garden. The same voice that had breathed life now brought forth a righteous inquiry, "Did you eat from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" Genesis 3 verse 11. Adam, gripped by fear, spoke words that would resonate through the ages, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate." Genesis 3 verse 12. His heart raced, for he knew he was making excuses, deflecting blame onto Eve and, ultimately, onto God himself. In the shadows, Eve, trembling and aware of her transgression, confessed, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Genesis 3 verse 13. The serpent had indeed twisted truth into deception, yet the weight of their choice now lay upon them. In that sacred moment, the justness of God resounded. He laid forth the consequences of their actions, speaking to the serpent first, cursing it to crawl on its belly and eat dust all the days of its life. And then he proclaimed the profound prophecy, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed, he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Genesis 3 verse 15. This first glimmer of hope, buried within judgment, would be a promise that echoed throughout the generations. To Eve, the Lord declared, "I will greatly multiply your sorrow in childbirth, in pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." Genesis 3 verse 16. The divine order would now be marred by pain and strife, yet within childbirth, the promise of redemption would take root. Turning to Adam, God lamented, "Because you have heeded the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree which I commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake, in toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life." Genesis 3 verse 17. The paradise they knew was fractured, and the ease of life was replaced with toil, thorns, and thistles. The beauty of Eden was now veiled by the harshness of reality. Yet, amidst the unfolding calamity, the Lord, in his compassion, made tunics of skin for Adam and Eve, clothing them in his mercy. He provided not only a covering for their nakedness but a symbol of the sacrifices that would one day lead to their ultimate redemption. As Adam and Eve emerged from their hiding, the heavier burden of their disobedience weighed upon them, yet within their hearts flickered a spark of that promise, a seed who would one day restore all that was lost. The guardianship of their paradise was taken, and they were cast from the garden into a world fraught with challenges and suffering. Yet within the depth of their pain, a profound understanding began to rise. Could the seed of the woman indeed break the chains of sin and death? The hope of the promise lingered, an eternal truth that would shape the destiny of humanity. As they ventured into this new dawn of existence, they bore their shame yet clung tightly to the assurance of grace. What they did not yet understand was that God's sovereign plan was unfolding in their very hearts, setting in motion a story threaded with sacrifice, love, and redemption. Little did they know that the trials ahead would forge a path leading to the ultimate sacrifice, the Lamb who would take away the sins of the world. The promise, like the morning star, shone brightly as they moved forward into the unknown, longing for the restoration of what had been severed. And in their wandering, they would learn that God's covenant faithfulness would never falter. But what they didn't know was how God's mighty hand was already at work in the hearts of the generations yet unborn. As Adam and Eve stood at the threshold of their new existence, the weight of their disobedience pressed heavily upon their shoulders. The world beyond the garden loomed vast and unfamiliar, shadows from the trees lingering as a reminder of the paradise now lost. They ventured forth, hand in hand, their hearts a mix of fear and yearning, a longing for the sweetness of communion they once enjoyed with God, now shrouded in sorrow. In the days that followed, they began to understand the breadth of their consequences. Adam worked the ground, sweat beading on his brow as he turned the soil, the thorns and thistles now his constant adversary. Each seed he planted was a testament to toil, each harvest tinged with the bitter reminder of lost innocence. As he labored, the words of God echoed in his mind, "Cursed is the ground for your sake," Genesis 3 verse 17. Yet, amidst the struggle, he sensed a flicker of hope, yearning for the fulfillment of the promise given. Eve, too, embraced her new reality with a heart heavy yet hopeful. Each pang of childbirth, a reminder of the declaration, "In pain you shall bring forth children," Genesis 3 verse 16, echoed in her spirit, transforming from mere suffering into a divine anticipation. With each child born, they hoped to see the promised seed that would one day conquer the serpent. As seasons turned, shadows of doubt crept in. The serpent's deceitful whispers lingered, taunting their faith, urging them to question the goodness of God. They began to share tales of their time in the garden with their children, recounting the beauty, the joy, and the companionship they once knew. Cain and Abel listened, their innocent hearts absorbing the truth, yet burdened by their parents' legacy. One fateful day, as the sun dipped low, casting golden hues upon the earth, Eve labored with new life. The cries of a baby soon filled their humble dwelling. Adam, filled with joy, named the child Cain, proclaiming, "I have acquired a man from the Lord." Genesis 4 verse 1. But it was Abel, the younger, who became a shepherd, his heart attuned to God, reflecting the spirit of sacrifice. In the passage of time, the brothers' souls began to diverge. Cain, consumed by jealousy, struggled with the weight of sin, while Abel grew in favor with the Lord through his offerings. God's voice, tender yet firm, resonated with Cain, "Sin lies at the door. Its desire is for you, but you should rule over it." Genesis 4 verse 7. Yet, Cain's heart hardened, rebellion festering within until he acted upon his jealousy, committing the first murder. The darkness of sin loomed over them, echoing the very curse they had brought upon themselves. Afterward, as God confronted Cain, a chilling silence enveloped the earth. Adam and Eve realized the depth of their actions had consequences far beyond their understanding. The anguish in their hearts was a reflection of the pain they now bore, a devastating awareness that the promise of redemption must contend with the unfolding reality of sin's devastation. Yet in the midst of despair, the Lord spoke words of mercy. To Cain, he marked him with protection, declaring, "Whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold." Genesis 4 verse 15. Thus, a glimmer of grace shone even in judgment, a reminder that God does not abandon his creation. As they mourned the loss of innocence, Adam and Eve held tightly to the promise of hope. Could their pain truly lead to the victory foretold? Deep within, the seed of the woman was not just a hope but a truth that would reverberate through the ages, weaving through the tapestry of time. They could not foresee the unfolding of God's magnificent narrative, intricately designed to withstand the onslaught of sin, to cultivate faith among his people. As the night sky glimmered with countless stars, they pondered a future where their brokenness might lead to glory, a journey where redemption would triumph over despair. And as twilight fell upon the earth, the whispers of generations yet to come lingered in the air. What would arise from the ashes of their sorrow? Little did they know, a profound legacy of faith was being forged, awaiting the dawn of fulfillment in God's perfect plan. One day, the cry of a child would herald the arrival of hope, eclipsing the darkness enveloping their hearts. With Cain marked and cast away into the shadowy land of Nod, Adam and Eve returned to their realm of sorrow, burdened by the consequences of their actions, yet yearning for the fruits of divine promise. The echoes of their firstborn's transgression haunted their hearts, a wound that time would struggle to heal. And as the years passed, Eve bore another son, whom she named Seth, proclaiming, "For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed." Genesis 4 verse 25. In Seth, they found a new hope, a continuation of the lineage through which the promised seed might arise. His birth was akin to a breath of fresh air, a soft reminder that even amidst the darkness, God was still at work. In the days that followed, Seth grew into a man who walked in the ways of the Lord, his heart steadfast in reverence. The faithful began to call upon the name of the Lord anew, Genesis 4 verse 26. But the legacy of sin did not remain dormant, it spread like a pall upon the earth, and the hearts of men turned away from their Creator, seeking their own ways. As families multiplied, so too did desires of the flesh and wickedness rooted in pride. The land, once touched by the beauty of God's creation, became heavy with violence and strife. And yet, the seed of hope remained, for even in the face of corruption, there were those like Enoch, the seventh from Adam, who walked with God, and was taken, for God willed him to be spared from the suffering that defined the age. Genesis 5 verse 24. Adam, whose days grew long and weary, reflected upon the generations. He taught his children of the promise bestowed upon them, that through their lineage the serpent's head would be crushed. Genesis 3 verse 15. He urged them to keep faith, declaring, "The Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love." Psalm 103 verse 8. As the silent prayers of their hearts mingled with the cooling night air, the world around them progressed into chaos and despair. Wickedness was daily magnified, and the heart of man was veering ever farther from the truth. The cries of the innocent reached the heavens, igniting the Lord's spirit of judgment. But before the flood of divine retribution would fall, God sought a faithful servant, one who would carry forth the promise and protect the seed. Amidst the lineage of Adam, Noah arose, a man perfect in his generations. Genesis 6 verse 9. He found favor in the eyes of the Lord, his heart echoing the righteousness of the generations past. Upon Noah, the weight of God's plan would soon be revealed. As the Lord spoke to him, "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them." Genesis 6 verse 13. Noah trembled, recognizing the gravity of his mission. The covenant makers would soon become the architects of a new beginning. Thus, Adam and Eve, with hearts intertwined in both sorrow and soaring hope, contemplated the legacy that would come from the pain they had sown. What would arise in the hearts of the faithful in the coming generations, they wondered. Little did they know that from their brokenness and the chaos that ensued, a glorious arc of redemption awaited, intricately orchestrated by the hand of God, whose plan would draw near a flood that would cleanse, a promise that would arise anew, heralding a future where once again, the connection with the divine would flourish. Hidden yet evident, God's sovereign path coursed ahead, longing for a day when grace would overflow, revealing hope amid despair. As the days drew closer to the fulfillment of God's decree, Noah continued to walk in faith, for his heart was set upon obedience to the Lord's command. The world surrounding him pulsed with wickedness, as darkness enshrouded the hearts of men. Corruption surged relentlessly, and every intent of their thoughts was bound to evil. Genesis 6 verse 5. In the solitude of his heart, Noah would often commune with the Almighty, seeking divine counsel amidst the turbulence. In those quiet moments, he found solace in the words spoken to him: "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with pitch." Genesis 6 verse 14. With trembling hands but unwavering faith, he began the daunting task, laboring day after day, an instrument of divine preservation amid an uproarious world. His family stood with him, bound by the covenant of their forefathers and the promise of salvation. Shem, Ham, and Japheth joined him in the labor, their backs weary yet spirits uplifted by the hope of deliverance. Each swing of the axe, each measuring of wood became an act of testimony to a coming promise, an ark of safety amidst the impending tumult. But not all embraced this divine vision. Derision and mockery cloaked the world, and the scoffers gathered round, jeering at Noah's unwavering trust. "Come, see the madman who believes in an unseen flood," they taunted, their words like arrows aimed at his heart. Yet Noah endured, quietly holding on to God's promise, his spirit untouched by the scorn that sought to sway him. Night after night, he prayed for the children of men, yearning for their hearts to turn from the brink of destruction. Yet, Lord, in your mercy, he interceded, spare them from judgment. May they heed the truth before the door of grace closes. And as the days of construction stretched into years, a glimmer of hope sparked in the heavens, for God was at work, seeing the righteous labor of this faithful servant. The heavens began to stir, and to Noah was given a sign, as if the very earth awaited the command of its Creator. "Gather to yourself all of the living things, for the time of my promise is now at hand," said the Lord. And so, as commanded, Noah summoned the creatures of the earth, each pair entering the vessel of salvation. The wild beasts, the fowl of the air, and every creeping thing that crawled upon the ground heeded the voice of the Lord and arrived, drawn by a purpose greater than their own. And now, as the last hammer fell and the final pitch sealed the ark, the sky grew heavy, a portent of the storm to come. The heavens darkened, and an uneasy stillness settled upon the earth. The moment of reckoning was nigh. As Noah stood at the threshold of the ark, the weight of what was to unfold pressed upon him. In his heart, he murmured a prayer of gratitude and trepidation. Lord, let your will be done. In this, we trust. Though the waters rise, your promise remains. Little did he know that beyond the rising tides, divine purpose was forging a new reality, a covenant that would echo through time. What mighty works shall emerge from the depths of this flood, he pondered. Unbeknownst to him, through the cleansing waters, God would set forth a glorious revelation, forging a new covenant that would whisper of grace and restoration, illuminating the path for generations to come. A seed of hope lingered, hidden in the promise that awaited a reminder that through the storm, God's sovereign plan was inescapable. And it came to pass, after the ark was completed and the last of the creatures nestled within its walls, that the voice of the Lord spoke to Noah once more. Enter the ark, you and all your household, he commanded, for the time had come to fulfill his decree. For you alone have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Genesis 7 verse 1. With trembling hearts, Noah and his family obeyed. They gathered their children, the faithful Shem, Ham, and Japheth, along with their wives, stepping into the vessel of salvation. The door of the ark creaked as it closed behind them, and with it, the world outside seemed to collapse into a silence filled with dread. Noah's heart echoed with fear and faith. He looked to the heavens, where dark clouds swirled like a great tempest ready to break upon the land. The earth had grown heavy with a weight of iniquity, and time itself seemed to pause, holding its breath for the impending judgment. As he stood within, surrounded by the creatures, he felt both the burden of responsibility and the deep current of God's abiding promise. Then, without warning, the heavens unleashed the rains. Great torrents fell, and the earth trembled. Deep calls rose from beneath, as the fountains of the great deep burst forth, flooding the land. Genesis 7 verse 11. The roar of the waters was a testimony to God's warning, an audible reminder to the scoffers who had mocked his servant for years, now silenced by the deluge. The cries of the world outside were distant yet agonizing. Noah's heart ached for those who refused to heed the warning. Day turned into night, and night again into day, while the ark rocked upon the floodwaters. Yet within, the faith of Noah was a beacon. He gathered his family together, sharing stories of their forefathers, the covenant made with Adam, the promise to Abraham. It was a lineage of grace amidst despair. Noah, in his heart, heard the quiet assurance of the Lord, "You are protected. Your faith has secured this promise." Hebrews 11 verse 7. Reassured, he led his family in prayers and hymns of praise, voices raised against the backdrop of chaos. The animals, curious yet calm, sensed the weight of God's presence. They were drawn together, a reflection of the harmony intended since creation. 40 days and nights, the rain fell unceasingly. Genesis 7 verse 12, and the land lay submerged under the mighty hand of God. Yet within the ark, faith blossomed like a flower amidst a storm. Noah, the preacher of righteousness, clung to the assurance of the future God had spoken upon him, a covenant marked not by destruction but by grace. Then God remembered Noah and all the beasts of the earth. Genesis 8 verse 1. A mighty wind swept across the waters, calming them, as if in response to the cries of the faithful servant. Hope ignited, and the promise of life began to unfurl like a green shoot breaking through the earth. As days passed, and the waters receded, the ark came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat. Noah, ever vigilant, sent out birds to seek land, first a raven, then a dove, seeking evidence of the earth restored. Each flight was a testament to faith, a symbol of the longing for renewal. And when the dove returned with a freshly plucked olive leaf, Genesis 8 verse 11, hope surged within Noah's spirit. God's plan for restoration was clear, echoing the truth that while judgment may lead to despair, His mercy fosters new life. But the true depth of God's sovereign plan lingered in the air, building anticipation. For within the remnants of this earthly judgment, a new beginning awaited, a promise of covenant that would transcend generations, whispering of redemption and the grace to come. How shall this covenant unfold? Noah wondered, as the sun broke through the clouded skies, shining upon the newly cleansed earth. The sacred journey had just begun, revealing the mystery of God's eternal purpose. And it came to pass, when the earth had dried, that the Lord spoke again to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons' wives with you. Genesis 8 verse 16. The command bore the weight of promise, for it signaled not only the restoration of the earth but the dawning of a new era. With joyful hearts, Noah and his family stepped onto the solid ground, the earth crisp beneath their feet, reborn from the waters that had engulfed it. They beheld the skies, clear and radiant, as the weight of the storm yielded to the warmth of the sun. The Lord, in all his majesty, had shown himself not only as a God of judgment but of restoration. Noah built an altar unto the Lord, and taking of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, he offered burnt offerings on the altar. Genesis 8 verse 20. As the smoke rose heavenward, it was a fragrant offering to the Lord, a sign of gratitude from a heart filled with awe for the mercy bestowed upon them. And God smelled a sweet savor and said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake. Genesis 8 verse 21. Behold, the Lord continued, the waters are receded, and life shall flourish again. While the earth remains, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Genesis 8 verse 22. A promise was forged in the heart of creation, a covenant etched not in stone but in the very fabric of the earth itself, a divine assurance that the world would never again be consumed by the waters of chaos. In that moment, God established his covenant with Noah, declaring, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud. Genesis 9 verses 12 to 13. The rainbow, a radiant arch of colors woven against the backdrop of the sky, was a symbol of God's enduring faithfulness, a reminder that he sees and remembers his promises. As Noah gazed upon the brilliant hues, he was struck by the deep realization of God's goodness and mercy. Each color whispered the hope of renewal. It was a promise not only of preservation but of grace that spanned beyond generations. Then God spoke again, and you, be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth. Genesis 9 verse 1. The command echoed with authority and blessing, stirring the hearts of Noah and his family to embrace their role in this new creation. The burden of judgment had lifted, now, they were called to cultivate life and restoration. Each day would bring the task of rebuilding, nurturing the earth, and sowing seeds of hope in the fertile soil. Yet as they looked around, a profound truth settled within Noah's heart: the world was not merely changed by the flood but transformed. The hearts of men were reshaped, the possibility of redemption now lay within their reach. Noah pondered the weight of their task: the preservation of righteousness, the teaching of truth, the embodiment of God's goodness amidst a world yearning for salvation. In that stillness, as dawn broke over the land, a new spiritual tension hung in the air, for the past whispered of a continuing struggle between good and evil, a cosmic battle that would echo through the ages. As he gazed at the horizon, Noah felt the stirring of something yet to come, a deeper purpose riding on the wings of the promise made. What shall become of this lineage we now must guide? He wondered, a stirring in his spirit igniting questions of destiny. For within the heart of this newly cleansed earth, God was weaving a tapestry far more intricate than they could yet comprehend. As seeds of promise were sown for a future generation, the mystery of his sovereign plan unfolding in the light of the covenant. And Noah, having awoken to the sunlight of a renewed world, began to walk upon the earth with deep reverence, accompanied by his family. They marveled at the vibrant hues of flourishing life, the trees that danced in the gentle breeze, and the babbling brooks that sang forth praises to the Creator. The air was fragrant with the scent of new beginnings, and the harmony of creation echoed in their hearts. As days turned to weeks, Noah became a farmer, cultivating the land that the Lord had provided. He planted vineyards and watched as the first fruits sprang forth: lemons, figs, and grapes. Each harvest was a celebration of life and promise, each seed sown was a testament to the covenant that God had established. You shall eat the fruit of your labor, the Lord had said, Psalm 128 verse 2, and in faith, Noah and his family rejoiced in the bounty bestowed upon them. Yet amid their gratitude and endeavors, a fear lingered in the depths of Noah's spirit. He sensed the weight of responsibility that accompanied the covenant. What if the hearts of men grow callous again, he pondered, torn between hope and trepidation. He recalled the depths of humanity's corruption that had invoked God's judgment. Grief flickered in his heart, and with every sunset, he prayed earnestly, Lord, protect the hearts of my sons, preserve them from the ways of wickedness. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a divine vision pierced the twilight silence, and God spoke once more. Noah, behold, I make a covenant with you and your sons. The air shimmered with the weight of his words. Though the hearts of men may stray, I will set my bow in the heavens as a token of my promise. My mercy shall endure to all generations, Genesis 9 verse 16. Noah stood in awe as the colors of the rainbow danced across the sky anew, a vibrant testament to God's faithfulness. Each shade sparkled with a promise more profound than the last. The Lord was reminding him of the depth of his love, even amidst the specter of human frailty. Yet God's voice continued, resonating with both hope and warning. In the generations to come, a choice shall arise. The inclination of man's heart will not change without my intervention. A spiritual tension brewed in the air, for Noah felt the duality of God's call. He was to nurture a legacy of righteousness while being forever aware of the shadow that loomed over their bloodline. Noah called his family to gather, and with solemnity, he shared what had been revealed to him. Our task is greater than we can grasp. We must teach our sons and daughters the fear of the Lord. For there shall arise a lineage of promise, yet a struggle shall remain, a battle for the hearts of men. His voice quivered with conviction, for he understood that each generation had the power to either embrace God's grace or turn away. As his words settled upon the hearts of his family, Noah felt the assurance that they were not alone. For within the woven tapestry of humanity's future, God's sovereign plan was unfolding, casting shadows and light, despair and hope, sin and redemption. And in the quiet whispers of the night, as the stars began to twinkle brilliantly overhead, Noah's heart surged with an unshakable faith, a revelation that something remarkable yet awaited them. What legacy shall emerge from this new beginning? How will the heart of humanity choose? The answer lingered in the air, a divine calling still unfolding in layers of mystery, for even as Noah tended to the earth, he would learn that God's redemptive purpose was far from complete. The story was only beginning, and the seeds of a greater promise were yet to sprout and yield their fruit in the fullness of time, a holy tension that bore the weight of a sovereign design yet untold. In the days that followed, Noah and his family diligently worked the land, honoring the covenant established by the Lord. With each passing season, laughter and joy filled their dwelling as the fruits of their labor flourished. Yet, amid the joys of abundance, the shadows of doubt occasionally crept into Noah's heart. He pondered the future of his lineage as he gazed upon his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who grew in strength and stature. How shall I guide them? He mused in quiet moments while observing their playful spirits. What legacy must they carry into a world teetering between grace and corruption? The Lord, knowing Noah's concerns, visited him in the stillness of the evenings. Noah, he spoke gently, live before me. Teach your sons the principles of righteousness and justice, for the foundations of the earth are laid upon my truth. Thus, Noah poured forth his wisdom, reciting the stories of creation and the acts of faith that had led to their salvation. Through nights of storytelling and days of labor, he instilled in them the fear of the Lord, weaving their lives into the sacredness of God's design. One day, as Noah planted seeds in a newly tilled field, the sun cast warm light upon him. He was reminded of the promise God had made, that as the earth renewed itself, so would his mercies be renewed with every sunrise, Lamentations 3 verses 22-23. Yet, a stirring within his spirit drew his gaze to the distant horizon, where dark clouds gathered, hinting at an approaching storm. What tempest do you foretell, O Lord? Noah prayed, sensing the weight of foreboding. In the midst of his unrest, the Lord spoke once more from the heavens. Noah, a reckoning approaches, but the hearts of men bear a choice. As my bow shines in the heavens, so does my warning resonate upon the earth. With each generation, the choice remains the path of righteousness or the road of destruction. Noah, filled with a fervent intensity, called upon his family. A storm may come upon us, not of waters but of hearts. We must stand firm in faith and cultivate love within. The seeds of truth we sow shall yield righteousness in due season. They prayed together, encircling the promise of God, and the spirit of unity enveloped them. Yet, as Noah surveyed the world beyond their haven, he felt the sorrow of a reality yet to unfold. The laughter of his children echoed, reminding him of the fragility of joy amidst temptation and sin. Days turned into weeks, and the vibrant world began to change as the whispers of temptation took root in the hearts of those they encountered. Noah witnessed the lurking shadows of pride and discontent. He felt the winds of rebellion stirring among the people as they drifted from the teachings of old. What must we do? Noah questioned aloud, filled with an urgent desire to shield his family. We must proclaim the hope of God's grace while there is still time. For judgment is both swift and just. With renewed determination, he ventured into the nearby settlements, sharing the story of creation, the flood, and the covenant established by God, the rainbow serving as a mighty testament of his promise. As he spoke, he noticed the stony faces among the crowd. Repent, for the Lord's hand is outstretched. Turn your hearts back to him who created you. Yet, many scoffed, reveling in their own pursuits, blind to the divine warnings. The tension thickened as Noah returned home, troubled by the weight of the world outside. He gathered his sons once more, and together they lifted their voices to the heavens, praying for intervention. Deep down, Noah sensed that the storm was not merely in the sky but within the hearts of men, a tempest brewing that could entangle them all. In that moment of prayer, the air seemed to resonate with the stirring of God's Spirit, whispering secrets of a hope unfathomed. There is yet a greater purpose in this travail, Noah felt within. And further still, in the layers of what was unfolding, a question hung in the air, a divine mystery of redemption and the promise yet to unfold. What role shall we play in the grand tapestry of God's design, amidst the strife and promise of salvation yet to come? As the shadows lengthened over the earth, Noah's heart anticipated a reckoning. A stirring within reminded him of God's unwavering sovereignty. He diligently worked the fields, cultivating crops and nurturing his spirit, ever mindful of the covenant that held the promise of grace for him and his family. How shall I prepare them for what lies ahead? He pondered, as he watched his sons toil beside him, faces radiant with thirst for life yet tinged with the specter of temptation. Exhaustion weighed heavily upon them, but even more so, the struggle of protecting their hearts from the encroachment of a world steeped in rebellion against its Creator. One morning, as dawn broke bright and hopeful, Noah gathered his family around him. Shem, Ham, and Japheth, he began, the covenant of God upon us carries an immense weight. It is not simply about our salvation, it is about a legacy of faithfulness and truth. We must steward this promise. His children listened intently, for they could sense their father's urgency. We are a remnant, chosen not only for preservation but to stand as a light in the darkness. Just as the rainbow shines forth after the storm, let us be vessels of renewed hope for future generations. Each word dripped with the truth of God's faithfulness, resonating through their hearts. They prayed together, binding their spirits as one. Lord, empower us amidst the choices of a world drifting away from you. Days turned into weeks, and although the restoration of the earth flourished, strife grew in the hearts of men. Noah heard whispers of violence and disregard for the God whom they were called to love. The choice to surrender to temptation grew louder, drowning out the clarity of divine truth. Yet, amid growing despair, God remained steadfast. He spoke to Noah again, the time for decision is upon all men. They will choose their own way, and the consequences will unfold as you have seen. Call upon them to return, for my heart yearns for their repentance. With renewed vigor, Noah ventured beyond their homestead, proclaiming God's words to his neighbors and those who would listen. Return to the Creator. He awaits you with arms stretched wide, longing to embrace the lost. But many dismissed him. Mockery followed his pleas. He faced ridicule for proclaiming a hope anchored in a God they wished to forget. Yet the flame of faith burned bright within Noah. He pressed forward, igniting the hearts of those who dared to listen. A flicker of faith began to ignite in the few chosen, a remnant that longed for the truth. Then came the day when the cries of the broken pierced the heavens and God revealed his hand, an outpouring of grief and rapture intertwined. "I will not let my people perish," the Lord assured Noah. "The seed of the woman, the promised one, will come forth." As Noah stood witnessing the shifting tides of humanity, from the depths of despair arose a profound realization: grace was more than restoration, it was an invitation to partake in the divine narrative. He gathered his family, and with radiant hearts filled with courage, they vowed to remain steadfast in faith, proclaiming the hope even amidst the shadows of uncertainty. Seasons turned once more, and each day was marked with prayers of solidarity, for they understood their role in the larger tapestry of redemption God was weaving. Then one fateful evening, amidst their last gathering by the altar, the Spirit stirred within Noah once more. "A new generation approaches, a lineage stemming from our faithfulness. Will they step into this promise, or will they falter like their forebears?" he murmured, uncertainty washing over him. In that moment, the Lord brought forth a revelation, a vision shrouded in light. A multitude of people, from every tribe and nation, gathered, each bearing their burdens yet cleaved to the hope of redemption, a divine declaration that his covenant would stretch to every heart willing to embrace faith. As the light faded from the vision, Noah's heart surged with resolve, and he declared to his family, "This is our purpose. We must prepare a way for those who will come behind us. They will need the truth we hold dear. Let us cultivate faith in our hearts and pass down the legacy of this covenant from generation to generation." And as anticipation filled the air, God spoke to Noah gently, "The promises made shall entirely unfold in my perfect timing. Teach them to love righteousness, to walk in faith, for even in the deepest shadows, my light shall guide their paths." With hearts ignited, they held tightly to the promise of hope, preparing for a future drenched in the mercy and grace of God. Riveted by the fervor of divine expectation, Noah and his family embraced the role they were called to fulfill, a journey ahead marked by faith and the ultimate triumph of the seed who would come, echoing throughout eternity the story of redemption, woven by the master craftsman. And so, gathered together as the sun set in vibrant hues across the horizon, Noah and his family sang praises unto their God, strengthened by the knowledge that their legacy would carry forth the message of love, a testimony of God's faithfulness echoing throughout generations, guiding the hearts of those yearning for light amid darkness. Now, dear friends, as you reflect upon this sacred narrative, may it inspire you to carry forth the torch of hope into the world around you. If these powerful biblical stories resonate with your spirit, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and His mighty works. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Leave a like now so others may join in this journey of faith. Comment below your thoughts and reflections. How has this story inspired you or influenced your faith? Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, we can uplift and inspire one another towards the kingdom's purpose, fulfilling the call to be vessels of His light in this world.